When we talk about bringing worship home, that for some of us might feel a little weird. Maybe not. I know for some traditions and just some people in any tradition, worship is understood as what we do together, as a corporate thing, the body thing, like the body of Christ. We gather together and together we worship. And the idea that being separated from the full body of Christ, and just being in our homes with those whom we either live with in our homes on a regular basis or invite into our homes, it can be a little confusing to think about that being a place where we can worship. If worship is something we do as a congregation. And it is. It absolutely is. We worship together and we are called together. But for some traditions and some folks, there's an understanding that we can also worship at home. Where two or three are gathered kind of thing. And so there can be some confusion on, is something technically worship or is it personal devotion or personal prayers? And honestly, don't tell my ordination committees, but it's kind of all the same thing. Yeah, yes. We need to worship together. We are called to be together. And especially in cultures where individualism is so highly prized, that the focus and the emphasis on being together as a community is incredibly important, especially as we try and proclaim our faith in this culture. That said, we can still worship at home. Worshiping at home can look like a lot of different things. I'm going to share with you something from my tradition, from the Presbyterian PCOSA's Directory for Worship. Because we have a small section in that whole directory on something we call household worship. And see if any of this resonates with you. This is from our Directory for Worship. We respond to God's grace in the context of personal relationships, particularly when Christians who live together worship together. Opportunities for household or family worship include Sabbath keeping and rhythms of daily prayer, Bible reading, study or memorization, prayers before meals, singing, hymns, psalms, and spiritual songs, and expressions of giving, sharing, and service to others. Congregations are encouraged to nurture and equip households and families for these practices. Does that resonate with you? Any of that? Okay, memorization probably isn't going to resonate with me, but the idea that these things that we do at home, these are worship practices. They are worship. And they enhance not only our own spiritual lives, but they can also enhance the worship that we then enjoy and participate in as a fuller congregation. One of the ways in which we might think about how we worship at home is by thinking about some of the seasons, the rhythms of our lives. In the church, of course, we have liturgical seasons, right? Advent, Lent, we're in Lent right now as I record this. Pentecost, Easter, Christmas, ordinary time. I'm probably forgetting one and feel terrible about it. Oh, Epiphany, Epiphany, all of those things. And absolutely, at home, we can certainly use those seasons, the liturgical seasons, to inform how we think about household worship, how we make that an intentional thing. Do we, as we include, so with Easter coming up, it's on my mind. If you have an egg hunt at home with your kiddos, is there any way to make that worshipful? Any way to add a bit of worship element to that, and in addition to the fun egg hunts and the candy and the treats? Are there ways in which to observe ordinary time, right? Like, we kind of forget that one sometimes. It's extraordinary, but the daily times where there isn't anything necessarily big or exciting, but this season of our life is also a part of our life with God. Are there ways to observe that? But there are also other seasons in our lives, right? Like, so this is spring is a coming. And so in our household, we are doing the yard cleanup, right? Picking up the sticks that have fallen in the yard over the winter time, starting to get beds ready for theoretically growing things. Never works out well for me, but I always like to try. We are in the season of getting ready for spring. That's a season of our life right now in our household. How might we include worship as a part of that? I bet there are a lot of ways we could. There are also, the seasons of back to school or, soccer season starting up. All of the things that are the rhythms of our lives that, if we really think about it, like we have a lot of rhythms in there. How might we invite God into those rhythms in a worshipful way? And of course, then there are the daily rhythms. Worshiping the hours is something that is common across many traditions. I know many prayer books have morning prayer, mid-morning prayer, afternoon prayer, mid-afternoon prayer, evening prayer, compline, all of those different things where we take time in our day, our actual 24-hour day, and offer prayers and worship and songs, psalms, all of that to God. That's worship. That's worship in the rhythm of our life. When you get up in the morning and as you get ready for school, is there a way to incorporate a worshipful moment in those daily moments? Worship at home in the household is something that we have an opportunity to grow, both for our own selves, but also I think for the sake of the whole congregation. I really do believe that that as we practice worship at home, as we observe worship experiences at home, that only enhances the life of the full life of the congregation of the body of Christ. Now, since we're talking about children-led intergenerational worship, I want to share with you the final part of our book of order, my book of order, the directory for worship, that talks about children in household worship. It says, children come to know, trust, and worship God by worshiping and praying with their parents and others who care for them. Children may lead and participate in household worship by singing and praying, listening to and telling Bible stories, learning catechisms, and serving and sharing with others. Household worship provides an excellent opportunity to teach children the shape and elements of the service of the Lord's Day, so that they may be full and active participants in the church's worship. So as you think about the rhythm and the seasons of your life and your day, think about how children might be able to lead those worshipful moments that observe those seasons.